I got fired from my job after 49 cancellation calls. Then the CEO finally wanted to know me. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
I never thought losing my job would feel like losing myself. It wasn't just about the work. It was about the life I'd built around it. I remember that morning clearly, waking up to the same alarm I'd set years ago, brushing my teeth without thinking, scrolling my phone while sipping coffee. Everything seemed ordinary, but something inside me whispered that nothing about that day would be ordinary. When I walked into the office, the air was different. Not heavier exactly, but charged, like before a storm. My manager's face was unreadable, her smile too thin, and her eyes darting away from mine. I waved to a few co-workers, trying to ignore the knot growing in my stomach. My desk was untouched, but the silence around me felt loud. And then came the call. "Could you come to my office?" she said. Her voice was calm, but there was a weight to it. I followed her, footsteps echoing, wondering what had happened. My mind raced. Was it about the project last week? A mistake I hadn't noticed? Or something bigger? When I entered her office, the door clicked shut behind me. She didn't say hello. Instead, she handed me a letter. One sentence inside. "Your employment with us is terminated, effective immediately." My head spun. My breath caught. I blinked, trying to process the words. "Why?" I asked. My voice was small, trembling. She shook her head, looking away. "That's not my decision." And just like that, it was over. No explanation, no chance to defend myself, just silence. I walked out of the office like a ghost, my steps heavy, my mind buzzing with disbelief. I called my friends, I called my family. No one could explain it. I didn't understand it either. And then came the calls. Not one, not two, but 49 calls. 49 times I heard my phone ring, saw the caller ID flash the company's name, and hesitated. My heart would pound. I thought about answering, and not answering. The calls became something I couldn't ignore. Each one was like a puzzle piece I needed to fit together, even if I didn't know what picture I was trying to build. The last call came late at night. I answered it with exhaustion in my voice, barely whispering, "Hello?" There was silence for a moment. Then the voice on the other end said something I wasn't ready for. "Alec Rose, we need to talk. I need to know who you are." That voice, it belonged to the CEO, the person who had the power to decide my fate months ago. And now, after 49 unanswered calls, he was finally asking about me. I didn't hang up, but I didn't speak either. I just sat there, frozen, the sound of my heartbeat loud in my own ears. Something inside me told me this wasn't just about getting my job back. This was bigger. This was about the truth no one had told me yet. And I knew I had to find out. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying that phone call over and over, as if rewinding it would somehow give me answers. 49 calls. Why 49? Why now? The question wasn't just about my job. It was about something deeper, something I couldn't name. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the hum of the city outside mixing with the pounding in my head. The morning came slow. I didn't want to get up, but I knew I had to. I had to face whatever this was. I dressed quietly, careful not to wake my roommate. My bag felt heavier than usual, but it wasn't just because of the laptop and notebooks I shoved inside. It was the weight of uncertainty. Before this happened, my life felt ordinary. I worked at a mid-sized marketing firm. Nothing glamorous, but I loved it. I loved the creativity, the challenge. I loved the people. I had a routine. Wake up, work hard, go home, call my mom. It wasn't exciting, but it was mine. I'd worked there for almost 3 years, and I thought I was safe. I thought work mattered. Until that day. The day they told me I was gone, I kept replaying my last week there in my mind. Had I missed something? Did I make a mistake? My projects had been praised, my deadlines met. There was no warning, no complaint, just the call to her office. My mind wouldn't let it go. I knew something was wrong, something far beyond paperwork or performance reviews, but I couldn't prove it. By mid-morning, I found myself back in front of that company's building. I wasn't supposed to be there, but something pulled me closer, like a moth to a flame. I leaned against a wall nearby, watching people pass. Employees, strangers who knew my name, but not my story. It was strange, watching them walk in and out, like nothing had happened. They didn't know I had been fired, and maybe they'd never know. My phone buzzed again. Caller ID, the company name. My heart leapt. I stared at it for a long moment, fingers frozen. I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I slipped it into my pocket and kept watching. 49 calls had been made, every single one unanswered, and now the CEO had called directly. That was the moment I realized this was no ordinary firing. This was personal. Something was being hidden from me. Something about me. Something about my role there. It wasn't about me not doing my job. It was about something else entirely. And I had to know what. So I started digging. I spoke to a few of my former colleagues, carefully, without revealing too much. Some shrugged it off. Some hesitated. But one of them, a junior designer, who had always been quiet, pulled me aside and said something that stopped me cold. Alec, this isn't just about your work. You don't understand what they've been doing. You were part of something bigger without knowing it. My stomach turned. What do you mean? I asked. But they just shook their head and walked away, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, I stared at my phone aghast. In a 49 unanswered calls, my boss had refused to tell me why I was let go. Colleagues hinted at something hidden, and the CEO, the person with the power to end my career, was suddenly calling me. Something told me that when I answered that next call, nothing would ever be the same. And I knew that whatever lay ahead wasn't just about getting my job back. It was about uncovering the truth they wanted buried. The truth about me. The next morning, I woke with a strange mixture of dread and determination. My phone still sat on my nightstand, screen dark, silently daring me to pick it up. I kept telling myself, don't answer it, not yet. But my hand kept drifting toward it, almost without thought, as if it had a gravity of its own. By mid-morning, curiosity won. I answered. Hello? My voice was hesitant, shaky. There was silence on the other end, long and heavy. Then, finally, a voice. Deep, calm, deliberate. Alec Rose. We need to talk. Meet me at the old district office. Now. My chest tightened. My mind screamed at me not to go, but something deeper pushed me forward. I grabbed my coat, shoved my phone into my pocket, and stepped into the early morning streets. When I arrived, The building looked abandoned. Windows cracked, paint peeling. The air smelled of rust and dust. It was nothing like the polished glass towers of my old office. It was raw, forgotten, hidden. Something about it made my skin crawl. Inside, footsteps echoed. My heart thudded. Then I saw him, my CEO, not in a suit, but plain clothes, leaning against a wall with a look I couldn't read. His eyes met mine, and for a moment, silence swallowed us both. "You have no idea what you've been a part of," he said finally. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. Every word landed like a stone. I frowned, confused. "I don't understand." He stepped closer. "That company of yours, it wasn't just a marketing firm. It was part of something larger, something we couldn't talk about. And you knew too much." My chest burned. My mind raced. I had no idea what he meant. "I was just doing my job." "That's what they told you," he said sharply. "But there are things they didn't want you to see. Things that could ruin everything. That's why you were silenced." I felt my hands shake. Silenced? What are you talking about? Before he could answer, my phone buzzed violently, caller ID flashing my former company again. I ignored it, but the buzzing didn't stop. It was relentless, urgent, 49 times, and now somehow it felt like it wasn't random. The CEO looked at me, eyes heavy with something I couldn't name, regret, fear, warning. "You've stumbled into something dangerous, Alec. You need to decide, walk away or dig deeper." My instincts screamed to run, but another part of me, the part that had stayed up nights wondering why I was fired, wanted to know. I nodded slowly, almost to myself. He stepped aside, revealing a doorway behind him. Inside, answers are waiting. I hesitated. The air felt colder here, heavier. But I walked in. Inside was a small room, lit by a single flickering bulb. Papers were stacked everywhere. Documents, photographs, lists of names. My heart thudded as I stepped closer. I recognized my own name written across one page, underlined in bold red. "What is this?" I whispered. "That's what you're about to find out," he said. And in that moment, I realized there was no going back. I was standing at the edge of something far bigger than a lost job. It was a story about power, about truth, about injustice. And it was my story now. Outside, the building seemed to groan, as if warning me. Inside, I felt the pull of something darker, something they had worked hard to hide. And I knew my next steps could cost me everything, my safety, my freedom, maybe even my life. But I couldn't stop. Because the truth was calling me, and I had no choice but to answer. The air in that small room was heavy, almost suffocating. My breath came fast. My hands trembled as I reached for the stack of papers on the table. Each sheet felt colder than the last, like they carried secrets too dangerous to touch. My name was everywhere, on memos, spreadsheets, internal emails. But this wasn't about my performance. It was about something else entirely. The CEO watched me silently, his face shadowed under the flickering light. "They didn't want you to know," he said softly, almost a whisper. "But they knew you would eventually find out." "What are they hiding?" I asked, my voice barely steady. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out a small folder, worn and frayed, and placed it in front of me. Inside were photos, faces of people I didn't recognize, names I hadn't heard, dates marked in red. And then, my own face. Not a professional photo, but something personal, A candid picture, taken without my knowledge. My stomach dropped. Why? I asked. What does this mean? That company was more than it seemed, he said. They were covering something. Something that could destroy reputations, change the way the public sees truth. And you stumbled into it. My mind raced. I wanted to run. I wanted to leave. But instead, I felt myself sinking deeper, drawn into whatever this was. It was as though every unanswered call, every late night of confusion, had led me here, to this exact moment. He leaned closer, voice dropping. Alec, they didn't fire you because of performance. They fired you because you knew too much. You saw things they couldn't let go public. I swallowed hard. My chest felt tight. My mind was spinning. What do you want me to do? To tell the truth, he said. But it won't be easy. They will come for you. They will try to silence you completely. The words hit me like a blow. I could feel the weight of them in my bones. I realized then, this wasn't just about me getting fired. This was about fighting something bigger, something dangerous, us. Outside the room, the sound of footsteps echoed, quick, deliberate. My heart raced. We have to move, the CEO said urgently. They know you're here. I followed him without thinking. My mind was filled with questions I didn't have answers for, but I knew one thing clearly. I couldn't stop now. We moved through narrow corridors, the flickering light casting long shadows. Every step felt heavier. Every sound made me flinch. My thoughts raced to my old life, the safe routine I once had. It was gone. Everything had changed. We reached a locked door. He pulled out a key, opened it, and stepped inside. It was a small office, cluttered with files, computers, and an old desk. This is where they hide the truth, he said quietly. I stepped in, looking around. My heart pounded. Everything felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. He handed me a USB drive. This has everything, he said. Proof. Evidence. If you tell the story, no one can silence it. I held the drive in my hands like it was something alive, something dangerous. My fingers shook. My thoughts tumbled into chaos. And then the sound came. Outside the office, a loud, forceful pounding on the door. They're here, the CEO said. His voice was sharp, urgent. You have to decide now, walk away or fight. I looked at the drive, then at him. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I knew there was no turning back, because this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about truth, and truth was worth fighting for. The door burst open. Everything changed. The sound of the door crashing open echoed in my ears like a warning bell. My heart felt as if it was pounding against my ribs. I gripped the USB drive tighter, as though it were my last lifeline. Outside, footsteps swarmed, heavy and fast. My breaths came sharp and uneven, each one a reminder that nothing would ever be the same. The CEO stepped in front of me, blocking the doorway. His eyes held a mix of fear and determination, and for a moment, I thought I saw regret flicker there too. Go, he said firmly. You need to get this out. No matter what they do, you have to tell the truth. I hesitated, glancing back at the pile of papers, the photos, the evidence that had brought me here. It all felt surreal. I thought of my life before this, safe, predictable, almost invisible, And now, everything had been ripped away. I wasn't just a person who lost her job anymore. I was someone who carried a story that could shake the world. I stepped past him, my knees trembling. Outside, chaos had erupted. The hallway was filled with shouting, footsteps, and the sound of doors slamming. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet carried me forward, driven by something deeper. Anger, fear, determination. I burst into the open air. The city was the same, but everything felt different. The streets seemed louder, sharper. Every shadow felt like a threat. I ducked into an alley, heart pounding, the USB drive burning in my pocket. I knew they were coming for me, but I also knew something else. I couldn't let them win. That night, I sat alone in my small apartment, the drive on the table before me. My hands shook as I stared at it. The faces in those photos, the names, the emails, they were more than evidence. They were proof of a truth someone wanted buried forever. And now, it was my truth to share. The next morning, I published everything. A single post, simple but powerful. The evidence, the story, the voice of someone who had been silenced too many times. I knew it would change everything. I knew it might cost me everything too. But I didn't care anymore. Because silence was the real danger. As I watched the story spread, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. I wasn't just Alec Rose, the woman who got fired. I was Alec Rose, the one who refused to be erased. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The truth was out. The world would see it now. But the question still lingered. How many more would have to pay the price before justice was truly served? And I realized the answer wasn't mine alone to give. It was everyone's. It was everyone's, because silence protects injustice, and truth is the only weapon we have.